All right, so in this audio lecture, we're going to be discussing dyslipidemia. So dyslipidemia is high levels of lipids in the blood. So these lipids are oftentimes derived from our diet. Okay. And so these sources can arise from our diet or they can be produced by our liver. Right? And so we see dietary sources be cholesterol, triglycerides. Cholesterol are only going to come from animal sources, whereas triglycerides are synthesized in our body. So we take them in as triglycerides, and then we break them apart, we digest them, we incorporate them into our structures, and we reform them into triglycerides. So this is looking at glycerol with 3 fatty acid tails. Okay. That can be comprised of saturated fats or unsaturated fats. And so saturated fats in general are the unhealthy fats. So they are the fats that really fit together, really compact really well, whereas unsaturated fats unsaturated fats have double bonds in them, and so they have double covalent bonds that allow the fatty acid to kink and bend, and so they don't actually fit together as well. And so the unsaturated fats are better generally compared to saturated fats. Now, you might be familiar with these terms of LDLs or HDLs or VLDLs. And what these are referring to are how our body is transporting the fats. And so this is a low density lipoprotein, which doesn't carry too much fat, but it is a structure that is generally associated with bad fats. Okay? And then over here we have HDLs, which are called high density lipoproteins. Okay? And high density lipoproteins have a lot of proteins in them, and then a lower concentration of fats. Okay? And the function of LDLs is to deliver cholesterol and fats to cells, while HDLs remove the fats and cholesterol from our cells and deliver them to salts, or to the liver. Right? The liver processes them, and then we go about it that way. Okay. So we have differences in LDLs and HDLs. HDLs are generally considered good fats, and then LDLs and VLDLs are considered bad fats. And so you want less of these LDLs over here, and then more HDLs. And so what this is saying is, if you have high amounts of LDLs, you have high amounts of lipids in circulation. Okay. Where if you have high levels of HDL, so above 40, okay, above 40, this is an indication that you have high amounts of the ability to remove these fats from your cells, and so they don't disrupt tissue function or cell function as much. So we know that lipids with a diet that is high in fats can cause all kinds of problems. It causes adipose tissue deposition. It can clog your arteries, which is why we're discussing dyslipidemia in the cardiovascular chapter, because we see it have an effect on blood flow through our arteries and veins. So we have LDLs, and so the lower concentration LDLs, the better. And generally we see values less than 100 be representative of an optimal LDL cholesterol level. Okay. And then as we go up, we get progressively higher. Okay. Now, the LDLs and VLDLs, so the VLDLs, you essentially don't want any of those, but we see that with the higher concentrations they have, you see and impact the health more and the physiology of normal organ function. So, just like I said before, you want high levels of HDL, so anywhere between 40 and 60. So if your levels are below 40, you have an impaired ability to transport cholesterol from cells. Now, remember that cholesterol is not always a bad thing, but we like to be in a normal level. So we see steroid hormones are derived from cholesterol. And so some amount of cholesterol is going to be fine, but less than 200 as an optimal level, right? And as we go up, we get to borderline high 200 to 239, and then high is 240. So we see varying levels of this cholesterol. You don't need that much cholesterol in your diet to be able to produce hormones. And this is measured in a value of milligrams per deciliter. So over here we have overall triglycerides, and so triglycerides are going to be the value after you've reassembled the fats back together, and so we would like to see that value be less than 150 milligrams per deciliter. Okay, as we go up, you see that we enter borderline high, 150 to 199, 200 to 499 is high, and then above 500 is very high. And this could cause other disorders to occur. And we'll talk about the disorders in other lectures like myocardial infarction, peripheral vascular disease, and then atherosclerosis. That can all be conditions that can end up developing from this dyslipidemia. No. So dyslipidemia, also known as hyperlipidemia, is asymptomatic generally, but it develops into other diseases, like I said before. So arteriosclerosis, coronary artery disease, peripheral vascular disease, or myocardial infarction. How are you going to diagnose dyslipidemia? Well, first of all, you're going to take a blood sample. You're going to look at it for cholesterol levels and the various levels of the other lipids. How are you going to treat dyslipidemia? You really want to be able to target in on what is causing the issue, and that's primarily going to be dietary changes, right? So now we're going to probably eat less red meats, less fatty things like less processed food, and more nutrients and vegetables and fruits. Weight reduction is going to be a big target here, because if you are overweight, you are increasing your lipid values in addition to that. Getting routine exercise is helpful, so getting some amount of exercise. So people say, well, I'm too out of shape, I can't get exercise. Well, take a brief walk around the block. That is exercise. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're inducing some physical activity in your life. And you're going to see that some cardiovascular diseases, we don't really want to increase cardiac demand like in cardiomyopathies, but in this case, the exercise is good. If you smoke, stop smoking, and then you might start lipid-lowering agents. If these up here, these effective treatments up here are not working, then we'll want to resort to pharmacological techniques, like cholesterol drugs. It's not guaranteed that this works. There is no magical pill that's going to make you lose weight. So we might start to act on surgical techniques like gastric bypass, or put on a gastric sleeve, right? Things that actually reduce your appetite. Okay? And this is training your body essentially to eat less.